Before we begin, I should address something that's a little bit different about me. I'm sure I'm gonna get a lot of comments about it. I found this sweatshirt under my bed. I was looking for it for a long time, and I know, it just threw everybody off. But anyway, I just felt like I had to bring it up. Also lost some weight by shaving off lots of toe hair in specific. But this isn't funny anymore. Let's talk about what the potential of a March event for Apple would be like, why it may not happen at all. It's kind of up in the air at this point, so I thought today's video we could just entertain the idea of all the potential things it may or may not be. Let's begin. So it's a question I've already seen floating around pretty often. I'm seeing people say, is the new iPhone SE coming out at the March event? Is that when the iPads are coming out? And we're still very unsure if Apple's going to have a March event. We did have one in 2019, but it was particularly bizarre and kind of out of the ordinary. It was pretty much a just services event. They went over the announcement of TV Plus, News Plus, Apple Arcade, and the Apple Card, which despite it not being very techy, it was technically hardware. But for the most part, it was all services at the event. And the important thing to remember is that Apple does not have a March event every single year. They do it on occasion. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. So it's not a guarantee as much as Worldwide Developers Conference and the iPhone events in September. Those are pretty much the only concrete Apple events you can expect every single year. But March events come and go. They're not consistent. One idea I've entertained with a few of my friends is maybe Apple's gonna start doing annual service events, which, don't get me wrong, that would be terrible, and I'm not that excited if that ends up happening. So kind of hoping that doesn't become a thing, because it would just be kind of boring if once a year Apple decides to get everybody's hopes up and everybody can speculate that AirPower's coming back, but they actually just use it as a 2-hour block to advertise the new TV Plus shows coming out, advertise some figures for News Plus and some new games coming to Apple Arcade, and then all of us wanting an iMac redesign are just stuck watching some third-party game developer we've never heard of showing us how this monkey can climb a tree a certain way, and we're just like, I wonder if there's hardware at this event. That would really annoy me, but as much as it would, it kind of makes sense given Tim Cook is taking Apple into a direction of more services. If they ended up doing something like the Apple Card Plus, which we talked about a few videos back, that would be the event to bring it up. Or if there was any figures or things they wanted to make shareholders happy, they could just basically have one event every single year where they talk about all of their services, things they're adding or changing, and that would make all of us very, very sad. So I hope that's not the case. I hope that from here on out, any type of updates to services can just be kind of tagged on during occasional events, or just publish it in the newsroom, okay? Please don't hype it up as much as you did last year's March event. Good case scenario is that we actually do get a little bit of hardware, though still keeping your expectations realistic. Hardware that's announced at March events is usually never that big a deal. It's typically something like the 9.7-inch version of the iPad Pro or the iPhone SE. In fact, that 2016 March event is probably what you would end up seeing if they are planning on having a hardware-oriented event. We would get the new iPad Pros, which I talked about already. They're not that exciting. Wow, a triple camera and a faster CPU? Great. Cool. It basically looks the same. Wouldn't be too excited to upgrade, but hey, it would be hardware nonetheless. And then alongside that, they would also introduce the iPhone SE, or some people call it the iPhone 9, or the 2020 iPhone SE, whatever you want to call it, that more budget-oriented iPhone that's basically just an iPhone 8 with an A13 chip, stripped of 3D Touch, and starting at $400. I think that would probably sell pretty well. Would not be the most exciting of iPhone upgrades, because those unboxings are basically going to be like, well, there it is, everyone. Okay, it's an iPhone. We know what these look like. But that's why they're unveiling it in March. It doesn't make much sense to me that if this iPhone SE is in development, which at this point I'm pretty confident it is, I don't think they would unveil it in June at Worldwide Developers Conference. You can replay this part of the video if that ends up happening and put a big busted over my face if you'd like. But still, it doesn't make sense to me that they would release an iPhone like 3 months before they release the rest of the flagships. To me, to kind of make up for iPhone sales kind of dipping throughout the year, it would make the most amount of sense to release it in that March time frame, because that's a good even 6 months since the last iPhones came out. So a little bit of an update for people to nibble on, a little bit of comparisons go on. Apple gets some press, some people upgrade their iPhones, and then the SE kind of acts as the placeholder until September and we get the actual iPhone lineup. But what other hardware could potentially be at this event? The big one that comes to my mind is AirTags. We got that directly referenced in iOS code. We swore that was going to come out last year, because not only did they keep the branding and the item trackers within iOS 13's code, but they also labeled a folder as AirTags. So everyone was like, okay, item tracker, it's being referenced in the Find My app. We're seeing the code referenced. These are the types of leaks you get when something is pretty much confirmed, unless something went horribly wrong with the development of AirTags. Maybe they pulled a second AirPower, except they were smart about it this time and said, let's not have Phil Schiller go on stage and make us look stupid again. Let's just hold off on releasing this thing until we're sure it actually works. But who knows? Maybe they got AirTags to work out and they're ready to ship them. If so, probably at the March event, that would be a good time to unveil them. But either one of these situations is not going to be a major event. Whether it's a services-oriented event or a hardware-oriented or maybe a mixture of the two, it would likely not be much longer than an hour to 90 minutes. And there's a third option that we should probably consider, the one you don't want to hear, no event at all. As absurd as that may sound to a lot of you, that Apple would actually drop and unveil a brand new iPhone. Sure, it's not a new design or anything, it's not flashy, but they would drop a new iPhone and new iPad Pros simply via website refresh. A year ago, I would have said, no, you're crazy, there's no way they're doing that. But Apple has done some things in the last quarter of 2019 that I never thought I would see them do. Things like drop AirPods Pro, which is a redesign to AirPods. There hadn't been one in forever, and then they dropped those with all their new features. They got videos. The website was all dynamically designed to showcase all the new features and stuff. Plus the 16-inch MacBook Pro, which they also decided, nope, didn't need an event despite the bigger display. It's the biggest display we've ever had on a MacBook in 7 to 8 years, and the switch to the Magic Keyboard, the largest amount of storage you could ever get in a notebook internally. All of these great changes, and they were like, you know what? Let's just drop it as a website refresh. And I think that was Apple experimenting at the end of 2019, realizing, you know what? There's so many YouTubers, there's so many people that hype up everything we do. That's me, Apple. I know, you watch my videos, I see ya. But essentially, they're thinking we can drop anything on our newsroom page, even if it is a big redesign or a big update to a product line, and so many YouTubers and media outlets are gonna cover it anyway. Do we really need an event? They'll probably save a lot of money that way. They don't have to send out a bunch of invites. All of the media that report on it don't have to buy plane tickets and hotel rooms and all travel out to the Steve Jobs Theater just to find out that there's a movie streaming service coming out in 6 months, because that's what happened last year. But Oprah was there. Yay! Man, this was worth my time. Maybe Apple's just like, you know what, everyone, can you just stay home? We're kind of tired. You know, we're working on this stuff all day. Why don't you just stay home? You can write up your articles bashing us from home. We can stay at home or at the office and just keep working, and all that money we invested into the beautifully designed Steve Jobs Theater, that can only be utilized once a year, because Worldwide Developers Conference, they don't have at the Steve Jobs Theater. So yeah, they basically built a giant amphitheater to utilize once or twice a year. Whatever, they got enough money, they can do that. So as much as that doesn't excite me, at the same time, I think I'd be okay with it if just a couple weeks there in March, Apple just decided to drop, hey, here's the new iPhone SE, here's the new iPad Pros, you can buy them if you want, I don't care. Either way, you know, your boy will be reporting on it, giving you all the details, everything that's been changed, we will highlight and probably milk that into a couple videos because we're desperate. So what of the three possibilities that I presented to you today do you think are most likely? Are we gonna get a mixture of everything? Or is there absolutely going to be an event? Or is there no way there's gonna be an event? Just remember, only a Sith deals in absolutes, which in itself is an absolute. But anyway, feel free to hit me up over on Twitter or join my Discord if you'd love to discuss more Ewan McGregor quotes. This is your Apple Sheep here, and I will see you in the next one.